It was announced that the New York Jets have dismissed Robert Saleh as the head coach of their team in a truly shocking announcement decided by the owner, Woody Johnson, and he did not consult the general manager, Joe Douglas. And yeah, Robert Saleh is gone after a 20-36 record, a 2-3 start to this season, and defensive coordinator Jeff Albrecht takes over the realm. And so, as I mentioned, it's not, it's not crazy to have in season coach firings, but only 5 weeks into the season, that is a bit of a surprise. And now, why can this happen? What happened? I mean, on a fundamental standpoint, on the football part, why he was a bad coach? He had bad clock management, weird time. He had weird times calling timeouts, did not hold players accountable publicly, and obviously his bad record speaks for himself, as they say. You are what your record indicates. And he often was undermined by Aaron Rodgers, specifically 2 weeks ago when he publicly called him out and not holding the players accountable, specifically regarding Aaron Rodgers' cadence and causing undisciplined penalties. And then, yeah, here where we are after two very bad losses, losing to Denver and now losing to the Vikings on Sunday morning, our time in London. We have a lot of things to wonder. First things first, the big questions coming in. Number one, despite this firing, how does this fix the offense? The New York Jets defense is a top 5 defense. Literally, there is nothing needed, even with major injuries on that defense, which includes CJ Mosley. Jeremiah Johnson's out for the season. And only players have stepped up, like Will McDonald on the pass rush, for instance, and CJ Mosley should be back soon. Other things that came up to this. What could possibly cause the coach to get fired this early in the season? Well, it was announced, and maybe it was by Saleh's camp himself because of this disappointing occurrence, that it was, as I mentioned, the offense has been a major problem. And yes, you can argue if they were able, you can argue if Denver, Greg Zuerlein gets the field goal, that's another win right there. And if maybe some harsh decisions and then Aaron Rodgers having an all-time worst game, throwing 3 interceptions. There are times where it would take all season for Aaron Rodgers to only throw 3 interceptions. He's the most accurate quarterback when he's on his game. But you could argue that from bad offensive line. He's taken some nasty hits over the past couple of weeks. In fact, if you saw the game last week, I thought he tore his ACL with a nasty hit in the back. Mm-hmm. So, but he's okay there. And all I'm saying is, even despite those two very close losses that could have been wins, maybe you're 4-1 and maybe you feel okay, but honestly, the problems were still going to occur. Still having trouble running the ball, still having trouble throwing the ball down the field. And that can all be attested, and a bunch of other reasons we can list. But that's attested to the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. People wondering why he still has a job. And obviously, the close ties between Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett is apparent. And there were rumblings that Robert Saleh considered demoting the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, from play calling duties. It was first reported that he was going to outright fire him, but it was made clear that he was going to demote play calling duties and have the quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator Todd Downing, who's had experience as an offensive coordinator both for the Titans and the Baltimore Ravens, to be calling plays. And after that came apparently was about to happen, Saleh was fired 5 minutes later. Woody Johnson said he did talk to Aaron Rodgers on Monday. He said that it was not regarding Saleh, but we know there's a good possibility that he's lying. And all beyond this, it seems that this seems to be a continuance of same old Jets, and especially the dysfunction of the Johnson and Johnson brothers running the New York Jets over the last 25 years has been quite a disaster. But even beyond this, there is still a big Monday Night Football game between the Jets and the Buffalo Bills that will take place on Monday. And that will be played for first place, with the Bills coming off a bad loss against Houston. All this matters now. But I said I laid all the facts out there. Things might come out as the week progresses, but all we know now is Jeff Ulbrich is your both your defensive coordinator and head coach. Nathaniel Hackett at this time is still calling plays, but they also reported they will still be reevaluating the offense. Maybe by Sunday that changes. I don't know. But that was a lot of information at once. Very busy day with the Jets. And now they, with a lot of pressure, they have to turn this season around. And this is a winnable division for them, with Miami just outright cooked, with their major injuries with Tua, Patriots rebuilding, and the Bills still figuring out who they are, um, despite some promising moments starting 3-0, but they have lost 2 in a row. And now this brings us to this big showdown for first place on Monday night. So a lot at once. Who wants to talk about the conspiracies? Who wants to say their thoughts on this? The Jets have fired Robert Saleh. Jeff Ulbrich is in. The former player himself, who has over 500 tackles in a 9-year career with the San Francisco 49ers. So pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I got my Jets shirt on, not on purpose, just happen to be wearing that right now. Yeah, Monday was a bad loss. No part of the Jets, in my opinion, looked all that good Monday. I mean, obviously the defense still the strongest part of the Jets, still good defense, but just in general, the Jets looked off Monday. They didn't look good.
Yeah,
Um,
Sunday. But yes.
sorry, yeah, Sunday, 9 a.m. in my mind. Monday is the next one.
See.
But they've wanted Saleh gone for a little while now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a lot of shock online, and maybe it's because I am at an arm's distance from all this still, despite being a Jets fan. But my read on it has been that they've always wanted Saleh gone. Last year was supposed to be Saleh's, make or break year with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers went down, so he bought himself another year. This year, Aaron Rodgers is here. He's healthy, and they're still not winning. And so, I mean, if you look at it, last year they scored the same amount of points at this time as they did this year. It was like 93
Yeah,
points or whatever it is.
that's right.
So is that at all Robert Saleh's fault? I have no idea. But they wanted him gone for a long time, and they were giving him Aaron Rodgers as their way of saying, this is the best quarterback we can possibly sign. So the quarterback issue should be non-existent. So win some games or go. And he hasn't won some games, so they want him gone. I'm sure though, to Matt's point, a lot of this comes from the fact that Aaron Rodgers doesn't like him that much. And also the idea that he was going to get rid of Aaron's boy from offensive coordinator probably had something to do with this too. Um, I would just say to the Jets, I can't name a single time in any sport, like think across sports. I can't name a single time when giving one player that much power, that much influence has been a benefit to the team overall. Matt, if you can think of a time, then by all means step in. Jose,
The only
Allison,
thing I could
same.
say is the NBA has had examples of that with it's very NBA like
Right.
LeBron and his influence on the Lakers and Cavs. For instance, the whole Harden forcing himself out of various teams. If we're talking about that part, sure. But Aaron Rodgers and the Jets relationship is quite a unique one. And yeah, that's the thing. If we want to go in the conspiracy route, how much did Aaron Rodgers know? How much input was it? How did one find out about the actual demoting of Nathaniel Hackett's play calling duties? That's an interesting thing to point out and think about. Who knows? He definitely told somebody he's known to speak a little too much to media members. I don't know, but yeah, it's out. The thing about this, right, is just ultimately the dysfunction of the Jets ownership. That's the common denominator.
Yep. No, I would say that's for sure. I would also though say just before I pass this to Allison or Jose, because I want to take up the entire time talking. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, in my opinion, was certainly aware of this happening before anybody else, if not actively a part of the decision that was made, right? and that's fine because this was going to happen anyway. I think I've been saying this for a few years. You can actually listen to it on this show that Saleh was pretty much done, unless some real wins and some real momentum happened, but that didn't happen. But Monday, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to play a game like he would have played 4 seasons ago. Because the I don't want to call him the scapegoat because I do think he probably needed to go, but the easy pickings, right? That the lowest hanging fruit is gone. They wanted Saleh gone. They never wanted him to stay this long. They always thought he sucked. I know it's only been 3 years, but you get the idea. They wanted him gone last year, in my opinion, or 3.5 years, whatever it's been.
Yep, 20
Um,
and 6, not good. I don't
yeah,
I do not see him getting another head coaching job
I
in
don't
this
either.
league.
Certainly
Maybe
not
a
the NFL,
coordinator
right?
role, but
Yeah.
um
But anyway, my point is that they got rid of the low hanging fruit. Now Aaron's got to win this game on Monday against the Bills. Like I honestly he does. Or I mean I know he's got whatever contract he's got, but if he has any sights on extending that or playing beyond that, then he has to break the curse of New York Jets being where quarterbacks go to die, and he has to do it Monday. He got what he wanted, but now he has to deliver, or else I won't say he's next. I'm not gonna fire Aaron Rodgers, but he's next. His career and his influence on the team is the next on the chopping block. That and of course his buddy Hackett, the offensive coordinator. Those two are next if this doesn't turn around.
could be, could be, and we will ultimately see. But just to throw the last thing with the conspiracy, just might as well throw it because it was worth noting. It's a bit conspiracy like, right? Now, this is where I have to go on the Twitter, trust me, bro, people, but it would make sense, various. And all I'll just say there, number one, that apparently Woody Johnson used to be the ambassador to the UK,
He was.
correct?
Yep,
During the Trump administration.
that's
Obviously,
correct.
going there. I don't know how legitimate this is, but he was there. Chris Johnson took over. And also, Chris Johnson was the one to hire Robert Saleh, not Woody Johnson, so not his guy to point
Hmm.
out. But I don't know if some people feel that he specifically really wanted to win this game in front of all his diplomats and friends of high influence there. I don't know. And then number two, in the game, Robert Saleh represented his heritage by having a Lebanese flag on the sleeve of his shirt. Now, obviously, I am no foreign relations expert, but obviously, tension in the Middle East is high right now, and I don't know if they were turned off by that statement. I'm not saying it was. I don't think it has anything to do with it, but to the point where some prominent news organizations made note of
Yeah,
that, might as well say pointed out here as well. I just
yeah.
think that's stupid. But again, only 5 games into the season where you're just a game under 500 and one game behind and one game back of first place, it's just, you know, weird.
Yeah, two important pieces of context for that, and then I'm going to stop. Number one,
Yeah, we
there
could
was
just move
actually
on
a
after this
yeah,
too.
there's actually a rumor that they wanted to move the Jets to London. That's what Woody Johnson ultimately wanted,
You
was
know,
for the Jets to become the London
I'm
team.
not a protester. I'll
But
protest that.
right. So that's number one. So the idea of the team that he wanted to be the hometown team losing in front of the hometown fans. Yeah. And then two, just again, not saying this is or isn't related to him being fired, but um, there were airstrikes conducted, I believe, by Israel. Do not quote me on that. Not a foreign relations expert, but I think Israel, airstrikes on Beirut, obviously Beirut in Lebanon, and that was the reason for the flag on his arm. It was specifically in response to the bloodshed in that particular city.
Mhm.
So just so you have that it wasn't just a generic I wore my heritage on my sleeve. It was theoretically in this case that the a couple of news outlets are making related to a specific action taken by another country against Lebanon or that affected Lebanon, and that is why he, who is not typically that outspoken, wore the that patch on his sleeve. So take from that what you will.
Indeed, indeed.